Hello, everybody. What's up, and welcome back to Paranormal Addicts podcast. Tonight, we close out season 2 with someone that truly understands the field, not just the investigations, but the responsibility that comes with it. Our guest has several years of experience, deep roots in residential research, and a family connection to some of the most respected names in the paranormal history. We've talked equipment, evidence, investigations, and the state of the paranormal community or season. And there's no better way to wrap it up than with my friend Russell Reynolds. Russell, welcome to the Paranormal Addicts podcast.
Thank you for having me.
We'll start out like we always do. Just introduce yourself to everybody out there that may not know you. And then we'll get started.
Okay, I'm Russell Reynolds. I'm the founder of Beyond Life Paranormal Research, Missouri, which a branch of it had started back in New York State in 2006. But my paranormal journey started much earlier than that, at the early age of 6 years old, in a house that I lived in that was haunted. I woke up at 3 a.m. to a full-bodied apparition standing in my doorway of a Civil War soldier, and was like one of those kids, pull the blankets over your head, it's not real, it'll go away. And then something told me to get the curiosity, and I peeked up out of the blankets. It was gone. But this house, strange things would happen all hours of the night. Toilets would flush, water would turn on. My dad would wake up freezing, think us kids are playing with the thermostat. I'm only 6, my sister's only 4 at the time. And my mom's stuff would move around the house. The dog would dig at a wall and growl and carry on. So we didn't stay much longer than that. One morning we woke up and the car was running. Now this is going to show my age a little bit here. This was long before auto start was ever invented. And so we didn't stay. We ended up moving out. Several other people would move into this house, not stay. When we were there, my dad really wanted to rip this wall open and rip the attic open, but they were only renting it with option to buy, and he never did. And it was the same wall that the dog would dig at. So eventually, when I got older, I would say probably about 13 or so, a couple from New York City had bought it. And they started remodeling the house. Well, they opened that attic and wall, and they found Civil War uniforms, swords, money, hospital equipment. And so what happened was they called the museum, and it went into the museum. Come to find out, that house used to be a Civil War base and hospital at one time. And so it had its share of confirmed deaths. Everything was original in this place. Skeleton key locks and everything in it. And so that kind of started my journey. At the age of 13, I started investigating. I would see stuff at my neighbor's house when I'd stay there. See a little boy bouncing a ball against the wall. And there used to be an old man that lived there, and his son got sick back in the 1800s and passed away. Well, the old man couldn't take it anymore. He hung himself in the barn. And you would see him once in a while. My stepbrother's grandmother died in that house along with his grandfather. We would see her peek down through the grate in the ceiling for the upstairs at us at times. And then as I got a little bit older through high school, a buddy of mine from high school, when we graduated, we would go out, go to cemeteries and check out abandoned buildings. And so that sparked the interest a little more. So then I got talking to Rob Dermarest from Ghost Hunters International. And I used to be a DJ back then too. And he was like, hey, look, if you make me a mixtape so I can listen to go on the road, I'll get you started in the paranormal field. So fast forward to 2006, he got me in contact with Florida Ghost Team, the director Sean, because Rob was also part of that as well. And we went from there. Sean started teaching me how to run a group. Rob, when he was done filming, he would talk to me about running a group, teach me a lot. of stuff. And then I would sit up all hours of the night and just read everything I could on the paranormal, learn and the education, and read Ed and Lorraine stuff, Hans Holzer, Harry Price, Morris Gross, all that. Anything I could learn, I would study about demons, and because I knew eventually I would run into them in my travels. And then, long story short, 2012 came along and I moved to Missouri and I carried a branch of it over here. The one in New York kept running till about 2016. And then my assistant director that was running that, she came into some medical issues, and I said, look, we'll shut that one down. This one's booming. I'll keep this one going. And it's been going ever since. And then 2020, I was asked by Amanda Quill and Rob Demarest to take over the state of Missouri for the Cold Spotters, British Columbia family. So now I'm also part of them since 2020.
So I introduced you as my friend in my introduction, and you're one of several I've had on my show. We are actually friends. We actually know each other, and in our background, as we discussed this most recently, Rock Island, our background is so similar because I started as a child, and you said you went on your first investigation at around 13, and I went on my first one around 12 or 13. Back in 1986, and so we got a couple follow-up questions on you talking about your house you lived in. Jeanette, she had two questions. The first one is, did the spirit follow you when you left?
No, it actually stayed there where it was. It never did follow us anywhere, and it had stuff that it was attached to there. It had its uniforms buried in the walls and stuff that it was attached to, so it remained there. And
yeah, that's what I was about to say. Most likely it was attached to the hospital and to the artifacts. Yeah. And then her other question is, was your sister scared? Did she see it too?
Oh, yeah, my sister was scared because, she was only 3 years old at the time, and it scared her. She could see it, especially when the power would go out at night. We'd have a candle lit in the kitchen, and you see something blow by the candle, and toys would turn on its own, and with the dog growling and scratching the wall all hours of the night.
Yeah.
Even my mom was getting scared of it. She was like, nah, we're out of here. Especially when you got water and toilets flushing at night.
Right. And, that's something, I think we discussed before, and it kind of goes along with your story and my story. I have, me and several other people have a theory that, kids always have the ability to, the sixth sense, or whatever you want to call it, the ability. And then for some reason, as you get older, some people lose it. I personally don't think you lose it. I think what it is you have so many people telling you it's not real or whatever. You just don't tune into it. So yeah, and dogs too. Yeah. And so, all right. So you already answered a lot of the questions I got, but but we're gonna go into them anyway. And so you already know this, but just for I have a few new viewers on today. So for the new viewers out there, I used to always do pretty much the same questions every week, and
right.
Going into season 3, I decided I was going to personalize my questions to each guest. So I did a run through last weekend with Rachel DeMarco. She was my guest last week. So you get to be the second guest I use personalized questions for. So here's your first question. It's Russell, you've been in the field for decades. When you look back to the beginning in New York, what was the moment you said to yourself, this is what I am meant to do?
It was my very first residential case. It was actually a buddy of mine. He was experiencing something in his home, and so my buddy Andrew from high school and I, we went out there to investigate, and we were able to bring resolution to that case. It ended up being his uncle that had gone missing. Him and his uncle were close, and it was a pet of his. So back then, before I really had much of the formal training and I was just getting my feet wet, and to see that I was able to bring a smile and closure to what he had been experiencing showed me that, hey, you're meant to do this. This is your calling. This is what you should do. You
Right.
need to go out and help families. And when I was 12 years old, I ended up dying from a seizure brought on by fever. And I woke up to my mom doing CPR on me. And ever since then, I ended up developing these abilities at 12 years old to see and hear them. And I never mentioned it in school because I didn't want to be known as that weird, creepy kid. So I kind of hid it, kept it to myself. Only my best friend Andrew knew at the time. And then I started using them abilities as I got older to help on residential cases and be able to bring closure to certain families and helping them out. And that's what I've been doing ever since.
Yeah, and that's another thing, that I relate with because I was born with I consider them gifts nowadays. As a kid, I didn't particularly see them as a gift, but as I learned to use them, as you said, as I learned to use my abilities, I consider them gifts from God now, and the exact same thing. I look at I tell people all the time that God gave me the gifts to use them to help people, and that's why
Yep.
residential investigations are so important to me. So that's another thing that we agree on. And going back to and we'll get more into Air the Rain and all that later. But going back to you saying that was you started reading the books when I did the same thing. So as we know, and as most of the viewers know, I still live. I didn't always live, but I moved back But I grew up in Western Kentucky, Western Kentucky, and so I tell people all the time that not only do I live in the Bible Belt, but I live in the heart of the Bible Belt. I think we have more churches than we do people, and
Right.
so. But I don't remember a time in my life where I didn't have the ability to see and speak to the spirits. I mean, my earliest memory is probably 4 years old, and I remember talking to So I was told at 6 years old. We laughed about this in Rock Island, Russell. I was told at 6 years old
Yep.
that I was a tool of the devil and I was going to hell. And so when I turned 11, 12 in that era, that's when I decided I was going to just. I realized I either had to learn how to use my abilities or be afraid of it my whole life. So as we know, I'm not somebody that's going to be afraid very much. So I started studying, and so again, I'm going to age myself now. This was before we had Ghost Hunters or Ghost Adventures or any of that on TV. The only thing we had when I was at this age, we had Unsolved Mysteries and Robert Stack, like one on Fridays would have the unexplained. That was all we had. So I went to the library and I checked out all of the Rain's books, anything I could get. So that's another thing. That we're on the same page on. So your next question is your team's roots go all the way back to New York and then Missouri. How did the paranormal activity differ between the two states? And did one location challenge you more than the other?
Missouri challenged me a lot more because there's a lot more violent history here in Missouri between the Civil War. Then we have our Mormon massacres, and then we have a lot of history with Jesse James and slaves and Native American history here as well with the Osage Indians. They were a ruthless bunch of Native Americans that would slaughter people. And then a lot of our mob history is also here too with Al Capone. He's owned several hotels here. Pretty Boy Floyd, and then your well-known place, Missouri State Penitentiary, that housed a lot of the dangerous criminals. And so this state actually kind of challenged me more than back east did. And I've gotten a lot more calls here than I did back east.
Yeah, I mean, Missouri, Kentucky are two of the actually of your top 5 most haunted states, according to experts. Kentucky and Missouri rank in the top 5. I mean, when you think about New York and all those places, they're older, so there's a lot of history there. But as far as violent history, Kentucky, Missouri, Texas kind of have your more violent hauntings for whatever reason. It really, it's like what you said, the Native Americans, the Civil War, the slaves, all that kind of. And so
and it's crazy here with a lot of the negative energy that went on. And
Missouri State Penitentiary is on my list to do, hopefully in 2026. So maybe we can do it together.
Yeah, definitely. I've been there 3 times already, and it's never disappointed every 3 times I've been there.
Yeah, that's kind of like me with Waverly Hills. Since I'm from Kentucky, everybody always assumes that Waverly Hills. I've actually been to Waverly Hills 12 times, 13 times now, and it's never disappointed. So so I definitely get that. So your next question is, you got early support from Rob and Sean and the Florida Ghost team. What were your biggest lessons you learned from working alongside them?
Working with them, I learned that how to do a lot of debunking, that not everything is paranormal. There's an explanation to everything, especially dealing with mental illness, alcohol abuse, drug abuse, all that type of stuff, dealing with residential. And Rob is one of those. He is upfront about everything. He does not hold any punches. If you're doing something wrong, he's going to tell you.
I think that's the best way to learn.
Yep, he's taught me a lot. Him and Sean both. They didn't pull no punches. They shot you straight. And that's why Rob is known as the bad boy of the paranormal, because when he got off the TV there, he exposed some of that TV stuff for what it was.
Right. And that's a question that I asked the people I trust. I didn't have it in your questions because I was trying to go away from my go-to questions. But since we've kind of mentioned it, I'll go ahead and ask you. So as you know, and as most of our regular viewers, I have a bunch of new viewers today. So welcome to the show. So for the ones who don't know, my word for the TV, and I guess even me kind of, because I have the podcast and the book and everything, is parapop culture. That's my word, parapop culture. So Russell, how do you think the parapop culture has affected the field, both positively and negatively?
Well, positively, if they're legit, it's education to teach people, but a lot of the negativity is running around, and I'm going to throw this out there. The demon word gets used quite a bit for and half of them wouldn't even know if they saw a demon and ran into one what to do. I mean,
they would piss their pants.
Yeah. I mean, that's showing these people the wrong way of investigating instead of learning like we did the old school way with somebody that's got experience, but everybody follows the TV, YouTube, Ghost Adventures, which is the wrong way of teaching somebody.
Right. Exactly. So I tell people, and I know you agree with me on this, Russell. we're close enough that I can say I know you agree with this. So I tell people, to me, the positive is that it makes it more freely that we can openly discuss it now. Because because now I still get some of the, oh, you're a tool of the devil, but I also get the, oh, you mean like ghost hunters or whatever. So at least I can talk about it now. So, and of course I do my paranormal expo here in Mayfield every year. This year will be our fifth. Next year will be our fifth one. So before the pop culture, that probably never would have happened. So so that's the positive. The negative is exactly what you said. The negative is exactly what you said. So even your most legit TV people end up giving you a little bit. The producers actually get to decide what you see on TV. So even like Ghost Hunters has some fake stuff in there. Ghost Adventures has a lot. But I'm not going to say that. But it gets even worse when you get to your YouTubers. You got these kids. I know they're adults technically, but you got these 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old kids running around in tight jeans, screaming that everything's a demon. And like you said, they wouldn't know a demon if they seen it, and they're not qualified to deal with a demon if they ran into one. So I call them the Spice Girls of the paranormal field. That's my word for them. They're the Spice Girls of the paranormal. And Ashley said she totally agrees with it. So Jeanette asked this question. I don't know if she's talking to you or me, so I guess we can both answer it. She said, since the Ohio Paracon was canceled, would you ever come to Ohio to investigate? We have some good places here. So I'll let you answer it first, and then I'll answer it.
Oh, yeah, I would definitely come to Ohio. I've done stuff in Ohio. I've done a residential case in Ohio, and I've got another investigation I got to work schedule in Ohio. So, yeah, Ohio is not ruled out for me not coming out there. I was originally supposed to be at the Ohio Paracon, but they had to cancel it.
So that was probably for you.
Yeah.
But I'll answer it too. Yes, I would come to Ohio. I don't know if I'd go to Ohio for a residential, because that would be 5 or 6 hours for me. So I'd probably prefer that to like you or somebody closer. Not that I wouldn't. I mean, if I was the only person that could get a hold of to help, I would definitely do it. But so would you? So I'm trying to get to all these questions here. We have a bunch of comments. So we haven't actually talked about this yet, but we'll talk about it briefly now, and then we can talk about it more later. So I'm actually putting together my roster, if that's the word you want to call it, for next year's West Kentucky Paranormal Expo. Would you like to be included in that lineup?
Yeah, definitely.
So, and I'm not going to spend too much time of this talk about it, but we'll talk about it later. But I will let you know it's September 26th this year, and the lineup so far is going to be. This is the first time I've announced it, so people, you better write it down, because I'm not going to announce it again for another month. So far, it's the Resurrects, Santiago Carrero, Joe Frankie, Larry Eisler, and Dr. Kelly Schwartz. That's who we got so far.
Oh, that's a good lineup right there.
So far, and we have a few more. We have a few more possible surprises coming that I'm not going to discuss right now. But so we'll add you to the list, Russell.
All right.
So the next question is: you and your father investigate together.
Yep.
Something that's rare in this field. How does working as a father-son team approach cases and families?
It actually works pretty well. Him and I, we work good together because my dad and I are very close. I mean, we deer hunted together when I was a kid. He's taught me everything I know as far as carpentry. He never used to be into the paranormal. He was a big time skeptic. even though he had an NDE back in the 70s, way before I was born, he was killed in a car accident and was brought back in the hospital to 3 nuns reading his last rites. So he also kept his abilities hidden. I never knew about it as a kid until I got a lot older and I was about in my 30s. We were already out here, and I worked at this school as a night custodian, and the school was haunted. So our superintendent, she said to me, "Yeah, you can set cameras out in the hallway as long as you're working. I don't care," because she knew I dabbled into the paranormal. And so my dad come in one night, and this is what changed him from a skeptic to a believer. This was about 2013, and he come in one night, and I was getting done. I was picking up a camera in the hallway. I see his hat get knocked off his head, and he's wearing a stocking cap because it was middle of winter. And I said to him, "Oh, you're just playing a joke on me. You knocked it off, just messing with me." He says, "No, I didn't." Now I'm still just shaking it off like you're joking with me. Well, we get down the hallway a little more. I go to pick that camera up, and I'm watching him. His hands are down on his side, and there goes his hat flying down the hallway. And back then, he told me, he said, "I can see him standing there." And I ended up capturing the figure on camera. So I said, "We're going to put your abilities to use. You're going to start working with me in the paranormal field." And he says, "Okay." And so I let him, because he's good at reading people. He does our client interviews. So if they're trying to hide something from us, he gets it out. He already tells them.
I can definitely see that. Definitely see that. So yeah. So what's interesting, and you know this because we discussed. So you and your dad work together. Well, I'm actually training my son. He's on my team. So he's only 8. He just turned 18. But I'm teaching him the parent. He inherited my abilities. I don't know if you can inherit it or not, but he's got my abilities. His ain't as strong as mine. Like, he can't see him, but he can sense them.
Right.
So me and Josh Morris. Josh has helped me with them too. So so some good people to be teaching. So because and I know you're the same way. I love mentoring the younger generation. We have some people in the field that's been doing it as long as we have. They think that they should be on this totem pole, whatever. That's not how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be, we're supposed to be working together, no ego, family, and teaching everybody. So I'm the same way. So one of these days I'm going to ask my son. I'm going to be like, "What's it like working with me in the field?" So
right.
That might be an interesting question. So, all right. So you have a unique family connection, including Ed and Lorraine Lauren, Judy and Tony Sparrow. How is being part of the lineage influenced your belief system or your investigation style?
To be related to him, it was kind of like an honor to find out, because I've supported Ed and Lorraine since I was a kid and watched a lot of their stuff, read a lot of their stuff to learn. And to find out that I was related to the most controversial paranormal couple in the field was like mind-blowing. And now I feel like I want to make them proud and keep doing the best I can and keep learning and educating and doing what they did when they were alive. I mean, I know there's a lot of haters of Ed and Lorraine out there. And like I tell the people, if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing today. They are the legends. They are the pioneers.
So
love them or hate them.
I'm not even related to him, and I'm way down here, but this is a true story. And I told the story to Dan Riviera when he was my first guest this season. And as you know, because we talked about this, and Rock Island. Dan was a really good friend of mine. I never actually got to meet Dan face to face, but we talked on the phone weekly. And Rock Island was supposed to be where I finally got to meet him. So it was bittersweet to me because I mean, the good thing is I did get to meet people that I really consider family face to face, like you and Rob and Sarah. But Dan was missing. But this is what I told Dan. So, and I showed it a little bit earlier. So my the people that I looked to teach me when I was learning was Ed and Lorraine. Of course, I didn't have them because I was down here in Kentucky, but I didn't have the books. And I actually started corresponding with Ed before he got sick there at the end. I actually have 3 letters. That Ed personally wrote me, and I actually have a frame. You can't see them, but they're right here behind me. And so those are important to me. So this is what I say to the haters. I actually have a good friend in the field. This a paracelebrity, and he thinks everything they ever did was fake. And I'm like, exactly like you said, if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be here. You wasn't investigating their cases, so you don't know what anything about their cases. You're basing most of your opinions on the movies, and the movies are Hollywood. They're not even based on anything real. They have about this much of a case file, and then they write a 3-hour script based on that much of a file. So you can't base. So the people who have a problem with the other rank can kiss my. You know what I'm saying? But that's all I'm going to say about that. So, but
and I mean, that's like Dan. I love Dan. I miss Dan every day. Dan was a mentor to me as well, and I was fortunate enough to actually get to investigate with Dan Rivera at Missouri State Penitentiary, and just to see the passion in Dan's eyes to educate, especially with that museum, was just phenomenal. You know what I mean? And I'm trying to say this without breaking up, but
I understand. I still get emotional talking about that. And the thing is, and this is a secret. I don't guess it matters that it's a secret now. But the last time we talked was like 3 days before he passed. And I was actually grocery shopping with my wife. You met my wife at Rock Island. We were actually grocery shopping. We was actually grocery shopping at Rulers. And I'm supposed to be grocery shopping. I'm on the phone with Dan. And you know how Dan is. If you're on the phone with Dan, you can't concentrate on anything else. So me and Dan are on the phone for an hour while I'm supposed to be grocery shopping. We're walking around. I'm pretty close to Cape Run. Yeah, I'm a couple hours. And I'm answering questions while I'm talking. So we're talking, and we're not just talking about paranormal. You know how Dan is. We're talking about classic cars, and I did found him a Mustang Mach 1 for him to buy when he came down here, because we was actually talking about the Devil on the Run tour coming to my expo next year.
Right.
Yeah, so that's something that very few people knew about. But he's like, this year we're going to be at Lexington already. So he's like, that's too much. Rock Island, because that would have been Mayfield, Rock Island, and then Sheriff Fest back to back to back. He's like, that's just too much. But he's like, I love helping out the smaller Paracons. He's like, so we're talking about 2026. So that was, and that was just Dan, and that's why when we was at Rock Island, and I'm sure you remember me because you were one of the ones I talked to about. When I finally decided to go through the traveling museum, but I was torn between it because I was supposed to went through that with Dan. It was supposed to be right, and I asked you, and I asked Rob, and a few other people, and I ended up going through it, and I'm glad I did because it's once in a lifetime thing, I guess, and but Mr. Kirby is going to be my first guest of season 3 in January.
Awesome. I love the way.
Yeah, he's actually going to write. So this is another secret that living out here. I guess this episode is all about secrets I'm living out. So everybody knows, or most people know, my first book is coming out in January. My first book is just basically my story, in a paranormal field guide to new investigators. My first book's actually titled "Don't Buy Generic Batteries," and it's probably not a demon. The Memoirs of a Paranormal Investigator. So that was going to be out in January. I'm actually writing my second, and my forward for the first book was written by Aaron G. Thompson. So my second book I'm actually writing now. It's actually kind of writing itself, and it's about Christianity in the paranormal field. And Mr. Kirby is writing my forward on it. So,
awesome.
Hi, Denise.
Hey, Denise.
So a week ago tomorrow, I was with Denise and Ernie at the Ditto House. We investigated the Ditto House last weekend. So my last investigation of the year. My first investigation of 2026 is going to be at the Night House in Owensboro, Kentucky. It's actually for my birthday. So it's actually like only 5 people. I'm only taking 5 people, and it's actually celebrating my birthday. Last year, my birthday investigation last year was at the Monroe House. Have you? Oh, you want to answer this one first, Russell? So it says, Ken and Russell, were you ever on a case that really traumatized you, gave you nightmares, and how did you deal with it?
For me, it was talking about going to the 7 Gates of Hell in York, Pennsylvania, which I don't know if many people are familiar with the urban legend of 7 Gates of Hell. It was an old asylum that sat back in the woods, and you had to pass 7 gates to get to it. And then a mysterious fire had broken out and killed the doctors, the inmates that were in there, and they were doing some harsh treatment on these inmates. Some of them that managed to make it out were shot and killed through the woods. The guard went crazy and strapped his family to a chair and executed them. So we were talking about going out there to try to debunk the urban legend. Well, when we started talking about it and getting it planned, we all started having strange nightmares of the place. We all started seeing figures. My one team member was having asthma attacks like crazy. And our psychic medium, who was my assistant director, kept picking up on the guard, Tom, and he was interested in me. And she was thinking he was disguising himself as a human spirit, but he was an inhuman one. And it was basically, we were like, no, we're not going out there. Somebody's going to get hurt. I'm not going to put the group and team at rest to go out there just for that urban legend, especially when everybody's having nightmares. And that haunted me for weeks. I would get this scratch appear on my back for no apparent reason. And then finally, when we stopped talking about it, it went away. And then another case that kind of traumatized me was my very first demonic case that I had to deal with. And that one, I got to witness somebody's eyes rolling in the back of their head, an upside down cross getting scratched on the side of their neck while we're standing there looking at them. That was the first time I've seen something a demonic entity could do to somebody. And the person saying it's mine, I don't want it to leave, and not even remember they're saying it. So that kind of, and it took 6 months to deal with that.
It changes you, So the case that I go to when I'm asked this question, I actually go into more detail about it in my book, but I still get emotional about this. So if I get emotional talking about it, just excuse me. But you understand, you're an investigator. You had it.
Yep.
So this goes back to when I worked kind of like a freelancer, when teams needed a medium or a demonologist or whatever, I would go with them. I was living in this is when I was living outside of Louisville on the Indiana side. It's when I was doing my pro MMA fighting, and I was part of a team there, and we got called up to this residential case, and I will say this for everybody out there. I don't usually talk much about residential cases, but this one's been over 20 years ago, and the family is okay with me talking about it. So, but it's important to know for the people out there that's new in the paranormal field, if you're doing a residential case, you don't do Facebook Lives, you don't do any of that stuff, because that's not what residentials are for. Residentials are about helping the family. It's not about likes and all that stuff. So if you're not doing it for the right reason, just don't do it. But anyway, so we got this phone call. It was from the in-laws of this case, and it was recent. It had only been like 3 months. It had been all over the papers, whatever. But it was the murder-suicide. The background, we checked out all the police reports, all that stuff. The background was the father killed the kids, his wife, and then committed suicide.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a very emotional case. So what the backstory is, well, first of all, let me say, getting to this house was basically like something from a Stephen King movie. You couldn't have wrote this better than it was. So to get to the house, we had to go underneath the famous Crying Baby Bridge in Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
We had to go underneath it, and then when we got to the house, catty corner from the house, probably 50 feet, was an abandoned 1800s cemetery. So it was like, so we get to the house, and the neighbor had decided to take matters into his own hand, and had decided to try to bulldoze the house. So we had to climb through the attic window to get into the house. And when we get in there, all the police tape and everything is still in there. And it's basically what you would expect. So the police report and all the newspapers and stuff tell the backstory as the father had recently lost his job. He worked for John Deere, and he had recently lost his job, and he went into depression, and he started drinking and doing recreational substances, and then he decided to start practicing occult worship. Or he was believed to start. That's how they put it. He was believed to start. So when we get there, we get to the kids' room first, and he shot the kids in the bed. They were already asleep. And so the police tape's still there. The bloodstained quilts and blankets are still there. But it's pretty much what you thought it would look like. With that being said, that's all I'm going to say about that. So we moved on to, walking down the hallways, it didn't seem like anything was out of place. When we got to the master bedroom, it looked like stuff of the nightmares. So he made his wife get on her knees, and depending on reports, either made her practice sexual acts, or he just crucified her. But either way, he shot her in the head while she was bent down.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, and then he committed suicide on the bed. So anyway, when we got to the master bedroom, something kept telling me to look behind the dresser. So we moved the dresser, and when we moved the dresser, we found a 5x5 cutout in the wall in the paneling. So when we opened it up, we found his diary or journal. He's a guy, so I guess it's his journal. So we found his journal, and in his journal, he actually talks about his devil worship, what he had tried, and then he talks about it. He started having visions that he was supposed to kill his family and all this stuff in this journal. And then after the journal, ordered me to go into the walk-in closet. And so this was probably a 1960s farmhouse building. So it had the big walk-in closet. So, where you can. So we, I followed my instincts. I went in the closet, and on his wife's side of the closet, there was a section of the carpet and the padding that was cut out. And when you peeled it back, he had attempted to make a pendulum in the floor. It was a very good one, but it was an attempt on it. So that case stuck with me for a long time because of how gruesome it was and how fresh it was. But like you said, the good thing about that case was I was able to bring the people who called us was the father and mother of the wife and the grandchildren of the kids. So I was able to let the parents know that the daughter and the grandkids had crossed over, that they were no longer there. And that's what they wanted more than anything. And then I was also able to provide the police with the journal and more evidence. But yeah, it still sticks with me. I still get emotional when I talk about it. But that's my first case that may have been demonic. My first case I could say I would say was definitely demonic. Happened many years later in Tennessee, and but that's the case that sticks with me more than any other case. So does that answer your question, Jeanette? So we got about 10 more minutes. So the next question is: a lot of teens focus on locations, especially nowadays. So, but you focus on people as a residential research team. What does a case need to have before you decide this family genuinely needs our help?
It's basically doing background checks. When I'm doing the initial screening through the phone, I'm getting their name, their address, and I'm doing background checks, checking for criminal history, drug and alcohol abuse, maybe history of violence. They've been arrested for sexual assaults and stuff like that. For us to take it, we'll go out and interview them face to face before we do the actual investigation, because I have my clients fill out paperwork. I've got questionnaires, standard permission, confidentiality agreements, and stuff like that. Because as you know, residential, there's a lot of liability that goes with that. A lot of different energies dealing with that. It's a lot harder than going to Waverly Hills or Missouri State Penitentiary to deal with that stuff. So your focus is to be there for that family to help them out. And if they're doing drug and alcohol abuse and stuff like that, it's your job also as the investigator, not only there for the paranormal aspect of it, you're there to console that family, get them the help they need. If it's mental health help they need, be there for them and have those connections to get them that help they need. Don't just abandon them. There's plenty of teams that go out there that think they can do residential. They go in, they stir it all up, and then they turn around and walk out the door, and then the client's scared because it's even more pissed off and angry because they went in there and provoked it. I worked one case, they had a team in there that brought a priest, but a priest in cowboy boots, didn't even have a collar or any of that with them. They didn't even last 10 minutes in the location and ran out, didn't even say nothing to the clients. Or you get some of the teams that walk in there and tell the client, oh, you got a demon in this house and you got this going on and that going on, instead of actually doing the research and not saying nothing to the client until you can back it up. You get some of these psychic mediums that walk in on these teams and be like, oh, you got 10 demons in here. How do you know it's a demon without actually researching it and investigating it? And if it's a demonic entity, you're going to feel it as soon as you walk in the door, because a demonic entity is going to know what you're there for, and it's not going to want you there. You're going to feel that heavy pressure hit you in the chest. For me, It feels like someone took their fist and drove it between my eye sockets. I feel like I'm being dragged down through in the mud, and I tell clients a lot too, if it was a former owner that owned the house, of course he's going to be angry and malicious because you're invading his space. He owned
Right.
the house. To him, that's still his property. You're trespassing.
Yep.
And it's like us. If we have somebody that breaks in our house, we're fearful for our property, our families. What are you going to want to do? You're going to want to hurt somebody to get them out of there. You're going to protect your family. Well, that's what they're doing. They're protecting their property because a lot of them don't realize they're dead. A lot of them are maybe you're waiting for a loved one. The loved one maybe moved out of the house or lost the house, moved into an apartment. To them, they still think their loved one is still there, and they're waiting for the loved one to go, and then they'll go right along with them.
Exactly.
And when you start changing stuff in a house, that even kicks it up too, because they don't like it because you're changing their atmosphere, what they're used to.
Right. I tell people all the time, if you move into an old house, always ask permission. If
Yep.
you're going to make any, and I'm glad you said that about, paperwork and all that stuff, because we're the same way when we do residential. When we do residential, there's a process, like you said. The first step is a phone interview with me. Second
Yep.
process we do an in-home interview, and the in-home interview is me and my 2 team leads and one other investigator, and me and the 2 team leads, me and one of the team leads conduct the interview. And the other team lead and the investigator, they do a walkthrough, so they get background readings of EMF, all that stuff, and then after that, we decide if we can help them. And then, like you said, after that, there's confidentiality, there's responsibility paperwork, and then we, Ken 10 Paranormal, which is my team for the people who don't know, we actually go the extra step, and we actually even carry insurance. So, we make them sign all that paperwork, and then we help them. And then, you made a very good point, and then we'll move on to the next question. A team going in that don't know what they're doing can make a situation worse. And even teams that do know what they're doing, like our teams, once we help the family, or what, we still follow up. We just don't abandon them. We follow up and make sure, that everything's still good. Sandy wants to know, do you have any pictures of you with the Warrens?
No, because they were both passed on when I found out that I was related. I've been friends with Lorraine since 2006 after Ed passed away, but they were both passed away when I found out that I was related to him. I do have pictures of me with John Zaffis, my other cousin, and I've got pictures with myself and Tony and those guys. So,
yeah, Tony, if you're listening, I still want you to be on the podcast. Answer my messages. Anyway, so next question is, co-spotters, British Columbia brought you into overseas Missouri. How did becoming part of that international network change the scale or visibility of the cases that you handle?
it's a lot of both. To be part of Cold Spotters, they don't just pull anybody off the street. You got to be legit at what you do, and especially helping people, not charging people, not doing it for the fame, fortune. Cold Spotters is not like that. Even though Amanda and Rob, they both been on TV, that's not what they're about for their teams. They want their teams out there helping people, teaching people. And that's why they only choose a certain few. And like me, because I've been trained by Rob, that's why she had asked us, and she has a big respect for the Warrens and stuff like that. And she knows that we don't abandon clients. We don't charge to do a home cleansing. We don't charge to do an investigation. We have clients that want to fix us dinner. A lot of times we won't accept it. We'll rather go out and we'll get our own. We're not about to mooch off a client or anything like that. And we do get some that insist wanting to fix us dinner, or they're wanting to pay us to come out. And I'm like, no, we're not going to charge you. We're not going to ask you for food. We're not going to ask you for gas money. We're doing this to help you. All expenses are coming out of our pockets.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
we get a couple that throw us some money, and I was like, I can't accept this. Oh, take it for the team. So we'll put it away in for a travel expense. If we got to go out of state somewhere to do a residential case, we'll use it for that. Anything just goes to the group because we are considered a nonprofit. We're never going to charge. I wasn't raised that way. And if I started charging somebody, I could see my cousin Ed Warren coming out of the grave and smacking me in the back of the head for it.
Exactly. Yeah, we're the same way. We obviously we're the same way. You know this. We don't charge. We never charge. Matter of fact, I tell people all the time, if you're in communication with a team and they're charging you, they're probably not legit. There's plenty of real teams out there that would do it for free. You need to find them. So we got a couple more questions, and then we'll get you out of here. So this one's just kind of fun. You've kind of answered this one earlier, but I just think it's kind of a fun question. So being connected to one of the most well-known families in the paranormal field comes with expectations. Have you ever felt pressure to live? Have you ever felt pressure to live up to the Warren legacy, or how has it empowered you?
Yeah, I mean I don't want to let them down, being that I'm related to them. And I mean, I'm not only related to the Warrens, I'm also related to Keith and Carl Johnson as well.
Right.
So to try to stay with my standards, to live up to their expectation, I don't want to fail them. I want to keep doing my best that I can, learn everything I can. I mean, I'm not an expert. I never will be. I'll always learn something new every time I go out. And that's one thing with me. And I mean, even being related to them, it's an awesome feeling. But also, I catch the hate just like they do because of me being related to them. They feel, oh, you're related to that big family. You're going to be controversial. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. And I'm just me. There's no ego here. I don't carry the ego. I'm not in it for the fame or the fortune. I mean, yeah, all that stuff is nice, but I'm not in it for that.
Right.
I'm like they are. I'm in it to help people.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the reasons we're such good friends, is because we're both that way. I mean, you know, I've been invited to be on TV shows. I mean, but that's not me. We're finally going to be on a TV show next year, but it took me a whole year to agree to it because like we said earlier, there's so much fake on TV. I don't want to be associated. I don't want to be associated with that. But I was talking to Rob about it, and you know, him and other people, and they said that's the reason for you to do it. You know, let somebody see what a real investigator's like. So that's finally what we're going to do. And
I agree. So, I mean, there's a lot of them out there faking it like us. What you see is what you get. If we catch something, you'll see it. If we don't, you're also going to see that. Like some of my videos on YouTube, I left it as raw as can be. So you're seeing us, what we're catching and what we're not.
Right. And you know, that's kind of like our mutual friend Jimmy Ricker, you know, from Paranormal. That's kind of how they do it too. You know, what they catch is what they catch. What they don't is what they don't. So yeah, and you know, that's one of their favorite locations. It has become one of my favorite locations this year. And it's actually in Missouri. You should come down and investigate with us sometime. It's in Cape Girardeau.
Yep. The Glen House.
Yep. I've been there 4 times. I've been there 4 times this year. That might be where I actually go for my birthday next month. And if it is, you have to come down for my birthday. You have to investigate with me for my birthday.
Yeah, definitely.
So we're discussing. So we got one final question. Are you ready?
Yep.
Last question, and it's perfect for the season finale. For several years, you've been investigating for several years. Why does Russell still choose the paranormal? What keeps your fire burning?
What keeps my fire burning is because I know the paranormal is out there. It exists. There's people that need help and that are crying for help. And if we all walk away from it, us legit investigators, then what do we got? The mockeries that are out there that are going to steer them in the wrong direction, where it takes us seasoned investigators to steer them in the right direction and to help them.
Exactly. So, okay, so here's my sign off for the season. Are you ready? You're part of this, sir.
Yep.
Are you ready? All right. So, Russell, brother, I truly appreciate you taking the time to close out season 2 with me. This conversation is exactly what this podcast is about. Experience, integrity, and doing the work the right way. To everyone listening, thank you for riding with us through season 2 of the Paranormal Addicts podcast. This season has been about real conversations, real investigations, and real passion for the field. We're going to take a short break, about a month. We're going to take a short break, recharge and reset. But don't worry, season 3 is already being planned, and we're back bigger, better, and still doing what we do best. Until next time, stay curious, stay grounded, and as always, live paranormal. Thank you, and we will talk again soon. And for everybody tuning who watched this week, please tune. For the new people who watch this week, please tune in back in January. We're going to kick off with Mr. Kirby, who's a good friend of both of us. He's a good guy. We're going to talk about a little bit of everything, including Annabelle. And so that will be January 23rd, I believe. Just for everybody that hasn't already, follow our Facebook page, Paranormal Addicts Podcast, on Facebook to stay up to date. And we got a comment. Hold on. Okay. There we go. So until next year, goodbye, everybody. I hope everybody has a Merry Christmas, if that's your thing. Happy holidays. Enjoy your family. Stay safe. And like I said earlier, live paranormal. And here we go. Maybe